Okay, so since we know how to do the multiple dimensional array, so you need to know how to process, how to use them. Okay, so today in the following videos, we will talk about how to use, how to process the multiple dimensional array. Okay, so before we get into that part, I want to go over something we learned in the previous videos. Okay, so first, you know how to declare the multiple dimensional array. Okay, so in this chapter, we focus on the two-dimensional array, single-dimensional array, and the three-dimensional array. So how to define them? Okay, so we based on the number of a bracket. Okay, so if only one bracket over here, this is a single dimensional array. Okay, if you have two bracket, which is two-dimensional array. Okay, if you have three, this is a three-dimensional array. Okay, so um based on the bracket, the first bracket, second and the third, you can visualize them like how many rows, how many tables. Okay, so in this one, once you declare them, okay, so for the two-dimensional array, the first bracket, it means how many rows. The second bracket means how many columns. Okay, so once you know that, it will be easy you declare a two-dimensional array or single-dimensional array. Okay, so for the three-dimensional array, if you have three of them, so first one is how many tables. Okay, and the second one, this table has how many rows. Okay, and how many columns. Okay, so based on this, you will know, okay, how many elements of the this three-dimensional array. Okay, so once you know that, you should be able to access specific cell or element of this array. Okay, since we know two-dimensional array, if we know the number of the rows or column, you should be able to access based on the index, right? So again, for the array, the index is zero based index. Okay, which means the first element or first row or column we start with zero, which means if this is a two-dimensional array, okay, the first row would be 0, second would be 2, would be 1, and the third would be 2. Okay, for the column, it would be same, 0, 1, 2. Okay, so the zero index means the first row, right? For this one is first row and first column. Okay, so based on this, we should be able to access whatever the cell you want to access. Okay, so for that example, you should be know 0 should be first row, right? First row with first column, right? So this would be this one, right? If this is so you have 5. Okay, so 0 0 0 0 should be this one, right? 0 1 should be this one. 0, 1, 2. So 1, oh, 0, 1, 0, right? So 1 and a 0 should be this one, right? Once you know that, it should be very easy to help you to access the elements you want to access, okay? Then is for some array, especially for two-dimensional array, it doesn't mean they have to be a table, okay? Because when we say table, most of the table you have to be, it's like 3 times 3, right? Or 2 times 4, something like that. But sometimes the table, it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be like have to 2 times 2 4, okay? It could be partially defined. For example, this table could be represented like this, okay? Okay, so first row they have, the first row have 3 columns, and the second row, okay, second row only have 2 columns, and the third row they turn to the 3. Okay, so it means we can just partially define different rows elements, right? So after we know that, should be able to help you to come up some idea, how to define the partial two-dimensional array. Okay, so there's has 2 steps. Okay, this is the first step. You need to define the number, okay, number of the row. Okay, so once you define the number of the rows, okay, here is 8. Okay, so very important step is in the second bracket, you do not fill any number of them. Okay, so which means you only reserve, we need 8 rows. Okay, but these 8 rows, you don't know how many columns for each of row. Okay, how to define the row for each of rows? We need use access the array name with the row number. Okay, so this is second step. Okay, second step. Okay, we need to access the row and assign a single dimensional array. Okay, so for example, we already know we have like 8 rows. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have 8 rows. Then what we need to do, if it's 0, which means the first row, okay, we sign with a one-dimensional array which has 3, which means there are 3 elements, right? So okay, 3. So you should be able to identify, okay, in here is a single dimensional array. It's not two-dimensional array, right? Because over here you only have 3 elements. If I ask you to integrate into array, okay, it should be, for example, this should be if as int, for example, is a new 3, right? So this could be drawn like this, right? So we just delete this part, we assign this one. So basically this is the object of the array, right? So we assign here to this row. Okay, if you want to assign with another one, there's another way you can do. So it's very similar, right? We have implicit instantiate. Okay, so in this one, we gave the number. So if you don't give number, everything's zero, right? If you give the number, so this is for the second line, okay? Then you give the number, but this only has two numbers, which means you only has two. And first one is 30,000, and the second is 5, right? So this is give you another one. Okay, if you back to the lecture 17, you should be able to find that there's two ways you can define the size and initialize the value. Okay, so there's a second way you can define a single dimensional array with specific size. Okay, so once you know that, there's something new you should know. Okay, so this is way we do some dimensional, three-dimensional array. Okay, so three-dimensional array, they also can be defined with something we said this is dimension, partially table. Okay, so in this one, you can tell what you can tell. Okay, we need three tables. Okay, but this table, you have no idea what's the size, right? So how to make the size? So first the table is over there. Okay, first the table we want to define, which is a table 5 times with 335, right? Okay, then second table we want to divide is 3 rows. Okay, so it's 0, 1, 2, but we didn't specify how many what's the column for each of the row. Okay, we will leave there for next part. Okay, then this one we defined is a table which is 4 times 30. Okay, if you draw a table, here's 4 elements, here's 30 column. Okay, once you define that, you need to define something else, which is for the table 2. Okay, how to define the table 2? Okay, we define first. Okay, here because this is three-dimensional array, we need to define the first one. We specify this is table 2, right? This is table 2. Okay, so for the table is index 0, 1, 2, correct? So then you have you define, okay, the first one we need a 3, 4 element, right? And this is 28 4 element. Okay, then you have another one. So this in facility implicit, we have two elements, right? Okay, so this is a partial two-dimensional array, and we combine them together. It's partial three-dimensional array. Okay. Well, then we know that we talk about the property we call the length. Okay, so for the length, if you have the first one, okay? The first single dimensional array, the length will return size of the array. What that mean? It means like will return how many element of this single dimensional array. Okay, but when you go over with the two-dimensional array, if we only call the array name with the length, so this will return the number of rows. Okay, so what's the number of rows? 5, right? But if here we put the bracket with specific index, which will return us the number of the elements at this row. Okay, so basically this is a second row, right? When the return number of the second row, right? Number element, okay, at the second row, okay, which is 6, okay, but sometimes in this example, we know it's 5 times 6 table, so every row will return 6 column, right? But sometimes you don't have very like something like 5 times 6 table. It could be partial defined, right? So this is very important. This index especially very important to help you to access the specific cell.